Good afternoon and call the meeting to order. Sorry for a little bit of a delay. We're having some technical issues, but we're good. We begin with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron, Wendat, and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We can start with the adoption of our agenda for the August 11th, 2026 public planning meeting. Moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Segan. All in favor? And that carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none recorded, we'll move into the purpose of the meeting and confirmation of notice. So the Planning and Development Department of the Town of LaSalle is in receipt of an application for a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Rock Developments LaSalle Incorporated regarding approximately 0.271 hectares of land known as 5885 Malden Road, currently designated LaSalle Town Center District and zoned Institutional Zone 1, to introduce a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone these subject lands to Town Center 1 Zone TC1. Pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13, a notice of public planning meeting dated July 21st, 2026 was published on the town's website, placed in the mail and emailed as well at least 20 days prior to a meeting date, a copy of which is attached here too. Report PD-2026-31 dated July 22nd, 2026 contained herein has been prepared to provide the public with pertinent information as to specifics of the application during the statutory public planning meeting. So I'm going to have our Manager of Planning and Development, Ms. Bursick, introduce the agents for today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening. Yes, before us to make presentation for the application, we have agents from Rock Development, we have Cooper, and we have Josh here, and I'll pass it over to them to make presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of staff and council. Is the mic okay? Okay. As an introduction, as she said, my name is Josh Way. I'm the Vice President of Rock Developments, and along with me, I'm accompanied by Cooper Tremblay, who is a manager at Rock Developments. And as you're aware, we are here to discuss the rezoning of 5885 Malden Road. Prior to our presentation, which will be up on the board, I'd like to share a few quick words. I trust that you are all enjoying your summer, although it seems like it's coming to an end at warp speed. And so I'm not looking to take up too much of your time today, and we'll be giving you just a very brief presentation that was prepared by our planner, Ms. Tracy Pilon-Abs, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And it's in relation, as mentioned, to the zoning bylaw amendment for 5885 Malden Road. Before I dive into that presentation, with this likely being the first time everyone here and the public has heard from Rock Developments with respect to this property, I just wanted to share a few brief words. Though I am not a direct resident of LaSalle, I can't help but feel like I am a member of the community, having spent countless hours watching my nephews play hockey as part of the LaSalle Sabres at the beautiful Volmer complex and attending church within the municipality. And of course, as such, a common occurrence with being within the community and with new developments, I've heard a lot of rumors, a lot of questions, and all with respect to this property, which we will be discussing today. As the public has likely noticed, demolition has begun. And I hope to allay and dispel some of the concerns I have heard voiced considering the prior use of this site being a church with a long history. We were not blind to this fact in the history of the property. And upon taking possession from the diocese, our goal was always to be good stewards and handle the property in a respectful manner. I can assure you, the public, we have undertaken our works with the greatest of respect, and I'd like to recognize the LaSalle Horticultural Society, who helped save the beautiful flowers that adorned the property, and were able to actually use those to assist the community further through that act. Ambassador Estates was also able to work with us to preserve some of the hardscape around the property. And of course, a number of the pews were donated to other churches in the area. We will also look to incorporate a tribute to the history of this property in our final development of the site, which is yet to be determined. With that said, I'd like to now proceed with our presentation on the zoning bylaw amendment, which we are seeking and which we already know staff supports. So with that, we can start with slide 1. So again, as discussed, the property in question is 5885 Malden Road. Next slide, please. It sits at the northwest corner of Malden Road and Sprucewood. It's kind of an oblong, irregular shape. As I mentioned previously, it was occupied by a church, and thus it was zoned institutional. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. So again, it all depends on feasibility and how we go through the steps of development, but currently again, I kind of want to highlight the word concept. This is the concept plan we have, and on it you'll see a proposed commercial building at the I guess that would be the northeast corner, with parking, and you'll notice a drive-through there, and enough parking per the bylaws. I wouldn't expect any variances with respect to parking should we proceed with this concept plan. But again, we're very early on at the stage, so this is just a concept plan. Can we move to the next slide? So the proposal, obviously the existing building has been demolished. And our intention is to develop the site as a commercial use. The surrounding area, as you are all aware, is all commercial use. Adjacent to the property is Rexall, and plenty of other properties. The proposed building will face Malden Road, which is a main thoroughfare through your community. A new 557 square meter commercial building, only 1 story, is what we're proposing at this time. A double drive-through is to be located at the rear of the building according to that concept plan, which was just before you. Next slide. Yep. So again, I'd like to reiterate concept at this stage. The antenna you can see on that's not on the building, that's behind. This is a rendering from a potential tenant that we have been in discussions with. Again, very high level, but this is kind of what we foresee. You might be familiar with some of the developments that Rock Developments has undertaken within the city of Windsor, such as 650 Division Road, where there is, of course, Movati, Five Guys, and various other tenants, and you can see the style of building that we generally develop. We treat all of our developments as A-class, and we take great pride in the way they look, and we look to make them as key points to our communities, and with LaSalle being one. Next slide. So site details, like I said, on-site parking has provided for a total of 23, with 1 barrier-free access parking. Vehicle access is proposed off of Sprucewood Avenue, not off of Malden. The proposed development will be professionally landscaped, tree plantings. There will be landscape space. Fencing is also an option. Refuse, garbage and recycling obviously will be provided. Again, I would encourage anybody to look at properties we have developed, like 650 Division Road in Windsor, to get an idea of how we deal with garbage. It's not an eyesore. We take great lengths and spend a fair amount of money ensuring that our garbage enclosures always look professional, keep away pests, things of that nature. The proposed development will be serviced by full municipal infrastructure, including water, storm, and sanitary. So it will not be on any sort of, I can't think of the word right now. But yeah, it'll be on full municipal infrastructure. As you all know, the final design is actually subject to SBC site plan control. So ultimately, the way it'll finally be designed is subject to site plan control, and that's when a lot of, I suspect, questions that'll come up today would be dealt with. Next slide, please. So It's currently zoned institutional with it previously being a church. Right now, what we're seeking is a rezoning to Town Center 1, which in the LaSalle code, that's the same as all the surrounding area. As you can see on the map, everything adjacent to this property is zoned TC1. So when you think of TC1, you're thinking of the Rexall, the Zayers, other commercial establishments in that area. All zone provisions will comply with that. Next slide, please. So support studies completed. A scoped planning justification report prepared by Pelon Abs. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Tracy is our planner. So she would be and has been the one to compile and will be submitting the PJR. Other studies to be completed as part of the SPC are such studies as the servicing, grading plans, functional servicing, stormwater management if it's needed, lighting study, photometric plan, all of the usual things that would be accompanied through SPC. Next slide, please. So planning analysis, this slide looks like a lot, but the summary really is that what we're proposing is in line with all of the policies. So the provincial planning statement, what we're proposing, it's consistent with the provincial vision of providing more economic development opportunities located close to amenities, which helps the town achieve a complete community. The county's official plan, again, it conforms with the intent and purpose of the COP. Within a primary settlement area, this site is located, and full municipal services are available. So not relying on wells or any other sanitary issues. The LaSalle official plan, it conforms with the intent and purpose of the OP. It's designated within the LaSalle Town Center District, hence the TC1 designation that we're seeking. Development is compatible with the surrounding area. Again, as I mentioned, all the adjacent lands are commercial and are very similar in nature. LaSalle zoning bylaw conforms with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. As I mentioned, again, through site plan control, we deal with things like buffering, landscaping, fencing, all of the aspects we would expect to make sure that it's safe for pedestrians and it fits within the community, and there's no issues there. And it's, as far as we're concerned, the planner's concerned, and I think staff can support that it's been planned well. If we can go to the next slide, please. So that concludes the brief presentation, like I said. If there's any questions at this time, I welcome any.
Thank you very much. Members of administration, I'm going to see if you have any further comments to add before I go to council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly things to note. I agree with the information presented here tonight, as well as a plain justification report that was provided by the applicant's planner, Tracy Pelon Abs. I also want to mention that to date, up to now, we have not received any public comments. And IRCA did provide comments since I've written this report. However, I'm happy to report there's no issues. So they don't have anything else to add to there. And I just want to reiterate one more time that, of course, at this time, they have not applied for site plan control. So while they presented a concept plan before you, I'm not reviewing any kind of development at this time. It's strictly just zoning from institutional to TC1. And they will be required, of course, to go through that site plan control process with us, get a site plan agreement registered prior to having any building permits approved. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. So we don't have any written submissions, but we do have public comments. We have Mr. Tedesco in person, and then we have Mr. Mystery on Zoom. Do we have them? Not yet. So if we want to have Mr. Tedesco come up first.
If I may, before my presentation, I'd like to have, through your worship, through the clerk, if I can ask, who wrote the bylaw that's going to be presented on the council agenda?
I believe that bylaw would have come from your department, yeah?
If I may, Your Worship, the bylaw has not been written yet or submitted to the clerk's office to be on an agenda. Here, we're strictly just at the public planning meeting stage.
Did you mean the recommendation maybe? Or did you mean like an actual bylaw?
The council, actually, it's bylaw 2026052. It's the last bylaw.
Oh,
on
the confirmatory
agenda.
bylaw?
I'm sorry?
The confirmatory bylaw 2026-052?
Correct,
Oh, yes, that's our confirmatory bylaw.
correct.
That would be your office.
So that would be the clerk's office
Yes.
that wrote it?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make clear if it was a planning or thing.
No, that bylaw is our final bylaw read at each council meeting.
Okay, because that's
So-
going to be the crux of my opposition. So if I have to come back to the council meeting, it's a problem, or I can bring it up over here.
Yes, so that is for the next meeting, the confirmatory
Okay,
bylaw
I'll be
part.
back for the next meeting. Anyway, I'll start. Josh, very good. You covered all the bases. Been living here for 67 years out of my 76. I drive the roads every single day. Everybody knows my car. That's all I do is drive around for high grass. Nobody cuts the grass. I know to go after that property. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. So, and the presentation was first class, except for one thing. You have to travel the road, and then you'll see. I just come from that section over there. Now, I got the notice, 1745 Spruce. My name is John Tedesco. I own the properties at 1745 Sprucewood, and I did receive the, which was very well done, the Town of LaSalle notice of public planning meeting, and with the sketch and everything, which is very first class. So I did some research. So my property is 1745 Sprucewood, and it is affected by this development. Also, my property is at 5929 Newman and 1600 Normandy are being affected. I checked under case law through we call it down here rat runs, and I'll explain that in a second. Whereas the OMB, or the Ontario Land Tribunal, they call it, bear with me, right here. They call it cut through traffic. Explain how congestion on Ontario roads will push frustrated drivers speeding down narrow streets, residential side streets that were never designed to handle volumes of cut through traffic. The town of LaSalle did do a traffic study 2 years ago. And they put the rubber things on the road right in front of our buildings there on Newman Boulevard. And they put it there on purpose. And they did send me an email asking me for input. I told them you can make Newman Boulevard, that was my suggestion, was to make Newman Boulevard a one-way street. And I can see now why they didn't do it, because if you go south on Newman, you make it one-way south, you're putting all the traffic on Normandy. If you go the other way, north, you're putting all the traffic on Sprucewood. So thus, you're changing the bylaw from a mundane and passive site to a very aggressive and a lot of problems that already exist, concerns and problems. The municipal board, they don't use that language. They use busy to operational deficit. That's what we're doing here tonight by changing the bylaw. We are changing it from busy to operational deficit. That's their words, not mine. I would have used, it's a crazy corner. It's 500 feet of the most dangerous section of LaSalle. One only needs to go there and stand there for 5 minutes. Mr. Segan, Mr. Burns, I invited them because they're not rubber stampers. So they were there. I said, just stand here 5 minutes and I'm not going to say nothing to you. It's a zoo. Because if you ever go there, especially now, and there's no school buses right now too. But when the school buses are going, and this was at 9 o'clock in the morning when it wasn't busy, the proof is in the pudding. So I will be objecting to this only because it affects my business at my building at 1745 Sprucewood. But not only that, people take the path of least resistance. And people know in LaSalle know that that's a dangerous corner. So what do? Go south on Newman, east on Normandy, because the light is a lot easier on Normandy and Malden to get around. So yes, you did cover everything. That was pretty good, but except that one thing. And I'm here for questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have Mr. Mystery online yet? He's not coming? Or he's just not here? Okay, well, since he's not here, we'll move on to council questions. If anyone has any questions or comments for anyone. Councilor Reno.
Thank you, Worship. I realize that tenants don't get announced at this point of the game or anything like that. But I am a little concerned with the double drive-through with what on the diagram doesn't seem like a lot of staging area. And I only bring this up because we were all very excited 10 years ago when they put in a Starbucks in LaSalle. Starbucks has a really big problem over there with staging, and nobody, including myself at the time, stop to ask about that. Is that something you have considered, or can you assure me that this is not going to be a high volume drive through? Is there any comment you can make on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Reno, as you know, I can't disclose, nor do we have a confirmed tenant at this time. One thing I can say is the tenants that we are targeting, it would not be a high volume drive-through. I can assure you it's not a Starbucks that we are pursuing. I don't know if that allays any of your concerns. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, Mr. Desko, if you can turn off your microphone, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
Nope. I just wanted to say thank you. I understand you can't divulge information, but as long as your eyes are on it and are thinking about it when your potential client comes through, that's the most I can ask for.
Councillor Segan.
Through you, Mayor Malash, a couple of things. First of all, Mr. Tedesco, I appreciated you invited me to view the site, as I would with any resident who had any issues regarding anything to do with the development of the town. But I already have an opinion basically on that area because I'm there all the time. I do business in several locations there. I'm concerned about the traffic only from the basis of the following. Like, first of all, was there any kind of study done before this was presented? In other words, an updated traffic study on that corner? If I could ask that for the presenters.
Through you, Madam Mayor. At this time, a traffic study would be something that would be subject at site plan control. So a traffic study has not been conducted. With that said, the concept plan that was displayed to you today, you would have noted it's 6,100 square feet. It's not a large building. Again, that without knowing a tenant, I know that's hard to decipher the number of cars and vehicular access that would be required to the site. But I can say again, similar to Mr. Reno's question, as the tenants that we are targeting, it is not going to be a high volume traffic area. I would not expect to see an exceedance from what there is now. Obviously, there will be some level, but not to the extent of putting in a Zayers or even a Rexall, which again is a smaller footprint. But again, site plan control would be where traffic studies and all of that is dealt with. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yep.
If my understanding of the process is correct, once it goes to site plan control, would we as a council be removed from any further decision making?
Through your mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, so for some time now, the Planning Act did make an adjustment where the approval authority is delegated to a member of administration.
Thank you. And I'm just concerned about that point too, because of new information comes out, I think council needs to look at, particularly from a safety point of view, which is where I'm coming from. Uh, It would make me look at it a little bit differently. Also, as far as traffic congestion, when the church was there, it was only busy a few times a week, if markedly, and they would park usually across the street at Zares. Is this the parking that's designated here? Because I only see one handicap parking spot. Is that within code for that building?
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, at this time, I appreciate the question, but we have not reviewed the site, even with the concept for our really intense zoning review, because again, at this time, the applicant did not also provide site plan application for our review. So if they concurrently provide it to us, then we would have gone to a little bit more detail. But at this time, we only looked at rezoning from institutional to TC1, because that's what was applied for by the applicant.
Further? Because there's also a curb cut there at Vexall, so potentially it would be entering that way, which I think would slow the traffic down going south on Malden. And then you have the one that's designated here in the blueprint here. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be the only exit entry point, the one that's on Sprucewood. Is that final? Because I know you can go all the way around to the other side. If I'm way too far ahead on the process here, let me know. But those are questions that even some people that I've spoken to have asked me about.
Again, through you, Mayor. Good question. It is a bit ahead, but I can tell you that when we did have even a pre-consultation meeting with the applicant, we did advise them that we were not excited about any kind of access onto Malden Road. So we did provide them with that information and comment. And again, we will review all this in much greater detail at site plan stage. I just wanted to add, now if the owner of the property or the developer was not looking to rezone and they were going to rebuild here within the confines of the institutional zoning, this application would not have come to council. It would have gone right through to site plan stage. And again, all those same parameters we would be reviewing in great detail with planning, engineering, building department, and legal to ensure that they're in compliance with all our rules and regulations. Thank you.
Councillor Richo Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. So thank you, Josh, for your presentation. Rock Development is a very reputable developer in our community, and I know they do fantastic work. You did answer a lot of my questions regarding lighting and the parking and things like that. I just wrote down a question. Two questions. One for you. So subject of approval, when will this be completed is the first question.
Through you, Mayor. It's tough for me to put a deadline on it because, again, we don't have a solidified tenant. I would expect once we solidify a tenant, then it would be within 8 months from that time period. But again, it's hard for me to put a timeline without having paper with a tenant. I could say that we're in discussions with multiple prospective tenants. And ideally, we would like to move forward with the process in 2027. But at this time, I can't give you a firm timeline, unfortunately.
Thank you. And then the second question, since we have our fire chief here, do you find any concerns of congestion for emergency services or anything on that road?
Through you, Madam Mayor. At this time, I think, the Malden corridor is, depending on the time of day, is congested regardless. But thanks to lights and sirens, we can make our way through that traffic. So it's difficult for me to really give you an educated response to your question, not knowing what the plan is for that site.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So it's not a supermarket, right? It's not a Monster. It's not Zares. It's a church. I went to St. Paul's grade school. I grew up there, graduated, first communion, graduation, all that good stuff, confirmation. And when the church was there, the people had to cross the street to actually get to the church. So that's a lot more dangerous than cars coming in and out, just for the facts. Now, having said that, though, I do agree though that we should look at, if we're going to move forward with this, that if we could make that somehow look at an entrance off of Sprucewood and put it in behind, that would be much more appropriate for me. And then you wouldn't have cars cutting out and trying to cut across the street to get the light. It'd be a little bit more of a buffer. And there'd be kind of a little bit of stacking you could use in behind, like Rexall in that area. That might help. Malden Road's definitely not an option, and thank you for that. Sprucewood, if we can bring it in behind, because the next door neighbor there does not have access to in behind, right? So we could use the same basically entrance that goes into that little mini plaza in the back. I would like that to be looked at if that's feasible. And that's my comments.
Counselor Burns?
Well, my concerns are definitely, we're spending millions of dollars to right the faults on Malden Road. And by what you're proposing and what I see, there's no stacking lane. So I come around the corner, I go down Sprucewood, I come to a stop. If I want to go into Mr. Tedesco's place or into your place, and it doesn't look like you're adding any lane there for stacking your cars coming in and going out, it'll be a nightmare. And I don't know if this is the place, but I don't like Mr. Ford and his rapid build houses quicker. We get nothing to say, but we're the ones who have to put up with whatever's there. And again, I know Mr. Otolio Sr., very credible family. I have no problems with that. But again, this may not be the place, but I'll never get a chance to say it. Have you approached the neighbor about having a joint access so then you can have access from Malden and also well as Sprucewood? And then as a senior, if I'm going to go to your institution or whatever you're putting there, I may want to go get my meds, which I'm not on next door, but there will be some people who want to. That means I got to pull out as presented onto Sprucewood, go up to the light, go to the next light, come around where I could just, because you already said fencing, so there's going to be a fence there where I could have access, and I think it would benefit both of you. I would encourage that administration push for that, and that maybe you approach the owner of the property next door. I know it's a serious problem with people from the church parking in his parking lot, and they said from the pulpit every Sunday, please go across the street. And they also parked in the parking lot, I'm going to say in the south side of Sprucewood as well. So it would be foolish of us to spend $20 million to fix up the problem we have here going north-south and create it going east-west. I don't know what you can do, how you can arrange your building, but again, I think it's beneficial in both areas. And those are my comments. I will believe that you won't be high volume. You have no reason to come here and put in a hotel or something else afterwards, or bed and breakfast. So thank you for your presentation, and I believe this is probably your first development in LaSalle that I know of. Thank you.
Through you, madam. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Burns. It's actually not our first development. We developed 2 residential subdivisions in LaSalle, and once upon a time, long before my time, there was a development that Rocco, with his father, that you mentioned, Lou, did in LaSalle. I can't remember the exact address, but I could track it down. With respect to some of your comments, again, I know you mentioned fencing. None of those things are for sure. That all comes up with SBC. And again, I know it feels a little bit like some of the power is taken out of your hands when it's put into staff's hands, but I think that you've hired a diligent staff that are competent and know what you and the community want. And we hear them, we hear from the community. We, as any prudent purchaser, owner of this property would do, we have been engaged in conversations with the neighboring properties you've mentioned. I'll leave it at that at this time. But yes, we are engaged in conversations. And again, like like I mentioned earlier, this is a high-level concept plan. I don't expect it to change a whole lot, but when it comes time for site plan control, that's when we'll go through and believe me, staff will address the traffic concerns and a lot of the issues that you guys have, all of council members have brought up. And as we always operate, we'll follow staff's recommendations and decisions and ensure that we're not building something that's an eyesore or creates more problems for the community that we're building in. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Thank you. I did know about the other two developments. I meant commercial. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Through you to our department, our building department, the 1:26 ratios, that's provincially mandated, the way I understand, for the amount of parking that this gentleman has proposed at his property.
Through your mayor, our parking regulations are outlined in our zoning bylaw for accessible spaces. Yes, that's regulated at the provincial level.
So again, through you, Madam Mayor, the only concern that I have is just the number of spots. Having walked that area before and just thinking if you have 5 employees, that's 21 spots. And again, that's my concern is the in, out, the parking, the leaving. It's a great corner and hopefully we, to Mr. Tedesco's concerns and some of my other councillors' statements, that we're able to maintain a decent flow. And I hope you're not putting, like another Starbucks there because that definitely won't work. So my concern though is I've got the provincial regulations here and 1:26 just on that corner is concerning to me because of employees. If it's just people coming to do business at business X to pull in and pull out, not so much a problem. But in my mind, 5 spots already taken because of employees. So it's going to be tight in that corner. And I think that's my only concern. But I see that it's provincially mandated and that's just where we're at. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Segan, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Malash, to Mr. Tedesco. So, Mr. Tedesco, in a nutshell, what is your objection to this? Is it the bylaws that your objection to the way they're being used? Is it just simply the site of the plan and the congestion that you're dealing with?
Thank you for the question. Nothing against the plan. That's the most high visibility corner that you can get. It's going to be top dollar as far as rental because it's very high exposure. I wish I had the money to buy it because I would have bought it because it's a great corner. But again, I just need clarification because when I was on council, I was under the impression, and they did change the laws of today. So tonight we passed the bylaw. It goes to council. They pass it. Once that's passed, am I correct through you to Christina that there will be no objections? Once you pass this bylaw tonight, it goes to site plan control and there will be no objections from the public. And I got a follow-up.
So, right and wrong, there is no bylaw for this right now. That will come at a future meeting, not even tonight. It's a future meeting. No, the bylaw for this, the confirmatory bylaw on the next agenda is something we do at the end of every meeting for that meeting. That has nothing to do with this meeting. Those are separate meetings. So what we're doing right now, there will be a recommendation that's before us. And the recommendation is if issues arise at the public planning meeting that are not immediately resolved, a summary of the issue along with final recommendations on the application will follow by way of a future planning report to council. Or if all issues are resolved at the public planning meeting, the requisite zoning bylaw amendment will be brought forward for council consideration at a subsequent council meeting. So
Okay. I might have read it wrong, but what the bylaw says to me, bear with me. What the bylaw says to me, in respect to each report, motion, resolution, or any action taken or direction given by council at its meetings held on these days, hereby adopted, ratified, confirmed as the same were expressly embodied in this bylaw. And has the meeting of 11th, the public meeting, and the 11th, the regular council meeting. So that tells me that it's tonight, the bylaws in the council agenda,
Right.
and it's going to be passed. That's what this says. So this
So-
is misleading, in my opinion.
I understand what you're saying. You feel it's misleading, but it's not the actual bylaw for this. This will come at a future meeting. But the other part of what you said is correct. If we up here today were to agree, besides the bylaw, nothing further does come back to council. That goes over to administration, and that is what the province put in place, I don't know how many months ago now, where it removed that authority from council and transferred it to administration. So that
Okay.
part you are
And if-
correct about.
And if you can clarify something too, because I don't want to be argumentative, but I just need a clarification. Is it no input tonight about traffic or anything like that? This is strictly bylaw? Because I have something here that says differently. So I just need clarification that once tonight is done and you guys pass the bylaw and it goes to site plan control, then there's no objections to anything whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. So tonight, for the public planning meeting, council will be voting on a recommendation only. For this public planning meeting tonight, there is no bylaw. The bylaw that you're referring to, the confirmatory bylaw, that is for the 6 o'clock regular meeting, which is two separate things. So you're right in the language in the confirmatory bylaw, but that is only for that 6 o'clock meeting. Tonight is for the public planning is just a recommendation, which is on the Christina's report. Okay?
So you're bringing up traffic.
Yeah,
For this.
I'll read it to you.
Yeah.
And you guys can make your decisions. That's why you guys are up there. Yes, as an individual, this comes from Ontario Land Tribunal. I have a friend there that retired, so I ran it by him. Yes, an individual resident or property owner, you can absolutely use traffic capacity and operational deficits such as worsening level of service, severe congestion, or queuing, spillover to object to a rezoning application in your municipality. In fact, the traffic impacts are one of the most common and legal recognized grounds for residents.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carrick.
Just for clarification. So can we kick this back to administration with the comments that we made to bring it back another day to see if they've implemented those suggestions?
So yes, so the recommendation, you have two options tonight, right? So we can either agree or we can ask for a few things to be resolved. So if you're looking for something further, if you're looking for, I know traffic studies usually at the next phase with the site plan, but those are things we can consider. You have a comment? Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. To maybe give a little bit more clarity to some of the questions that were asked. I know I was holding back a little bit of information, and then someone mentioned something about a restaurant, Starbucks. I'll be forthcoming and I'll tell you what we are pursuing is a financial institution, hence the drive-through. So with that said, I'm sure many of you have driven by them. They do not have long stacking lines. They do not generate a lot of traffic. So that's what we're targeting. I can't disclose the names of the institutions that we are in discussions with. And again, I just want to reiterate that everything a part of our presentation is supported by the provincial plan and all of the plans that were outlined in our presentation. So I just wanted to leave that with you. If things were to fall through, which I don't see happening with the financial institution, we are not interested in a restaurant or a coffee shop, nothing of the sort. So I can assure you that in Rock Developments, you're in good hands. We are not going to increase traffic and make that corner of Malden Road a headache.
Thank you very much. Did you have something to add?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just because we're talking about traffic, I thought it would be good to bring this up. A lot of the traffic studies are based on area. And when you do a traffic study, it's going to look at the zoning, in this case, what the uses are. So the zoning, in this case, there's different options. So it's good that, it's going to be residential, but the zoning's for life per se. And so the zoning in the buildings could change over time. The traffic patterns obviously change over time as well. But in this instance, the land area is so small that based on what we could calculate today on any number of things, you would be looking at 50 cars at the most busiest times within 3 hours. So that's, I don't know, a car, like it's very little as you relate it to Malden Road, who sees thousands, tens of thousands of cars a day. So the traffic study, we will be asking for it. It will be part of the site plan control. And a big component at that point during site plan control, as it relates to a lot of the comments I heard today, is the operational of the intersection. So we wouldn't be able necessarily to see too much of the operational aspects of that Sprucewood Malden intersection. We would be able to know today based how many vehicles you would see, but when you're in SPC stage, site plan control, that's when you're going to look at where the driveways are and the flow of the vehicles on their property and how those flows could queue onto the town property. And if we see issues there, that's when I forget who mentioned it about, would they need a right turn lane in? Would they need an auxiliary lane? They proposed having a driveway at the furthest part of their property, further away from the intersection. That's something we like to see. It's called a clear throat distance. That clear throat distance allows vehicles to turn in and out of the property safely. These nuances is something, like I said, we want to see during the site plan control phase. Having their proposal go from an institutional to our zone 1 commercial, looking at the land size and the amount of traffic that an institutional building could produce versus what a commercial building and of that land size could produce, administration felt pretty comfortable, as along with their planner and their planning, felt comfortable that the impact to the network was relatively low, and the impacts, which are more important, can be addressed through the site plan control. So hopefully that settles things a little bit, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
So I guess maybe it's not the right time, but the entrance itself is so close to the other entrance. That's the problem, the concern I have. So getting it off of Sprucewood and bringing it in behind off the side would make so much more sense because you're right next to the other one that's got everything else coming in and out of there. That's my concern. Everything else, I understand there's something has to go there. You can't leave it blank because that's just the way it is. And it sounds like it's a perfect opportunity. But my concern is, we had the same concern over here when they were building the residential condos off of Ellis.
Yeah.
Where we had them put the entrance in, so wasn't right on the corner, so it wasn't a runway. This is like, to me personally, I don't want to belabor it, but that's a concern to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. With respect to access to this property, the town's obligated to provide access to this property from one of its public roads, Malden or Sprucewood. There is no ability to force access from private property at this point unless the two landowners can negotiate something. We can't force that to happen, but it is something that they can explore on their own. At this point, I'm not aware of any reciprocal access agreements across what we would refer to as the Rexall site to allow that cross traffic to happen. At the time when Rexall was developed, administration and council were not envisioning that type of impact with respect to reciprocal access agreement. Today, we look at reciprocal access agreements a lot differently across commercial properties to try to alleviate exactly what Councilor Burns was saying is, I want to park here, but I want to go to this place, and it's all in the same area. So we try to do that differently today. We have a different lens under today's standards because we realize that when you want to change properties, you got to go out on the road and come back in and things of that nature. So it's going to be very difficult to force an access off of public property unless the two property owners can come to some sort of arrangement. At the site plan control stage, there will be a number of studies, and as Mr. Capucci had mentioned, traffic impact study will be one, certified, stamped, and signed by a professional engineer who takes liability for this. On the other hand, the developer is putting some significant money in here, and so they do not want to see this access fail because they're going to lose tenants and they'll never rent this building. So they want to ensure that people can get in and out of the site as well, as much as we want to see people get in and out of the site because they have more of a vested interest in it than probably we do with respect to the amount of money they're sinking into the property to develop it. So it's in everyone's best interest to review that. Also, to that point, there are two entrances on the south side of Sprucewood between what's proposed of this access and Malden Road. So there is already access points on Sprucewood, on the south side between what's being proposed here in Malden. So again, those are some of the nuances here. And so this would prove, if council is sufficient and happy with this, you can proceed to the next stage through site plan control, and all of those details and technical analysis occur. At that point, administration has the expertise to be able to review those and receive that input and that information. So that's a little bit more context of what I wanted to provide relative to some of that access off of private property.
Further?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for bringing that up, Deputy Chief. Mr. Carrick brought up access through the adjoining properties. And again, I just want to reiterate what I said before. As any prudent owner of this property would do, we are in discussions with those. Ultimately, we can't force a neighboring property to allow us to have that reciprocal access, but it's certainly something we are pursuing diligently. And it's something that we want as well. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much. So I have a question for administration. If we were not to change the zoning and it were to stay institutional, what other types of things could go there and what type of traffic could we expect?
Thank you for your question, Madam Mayor. I may not be able to answer the traffic portion. I think that's a question we would have to see based on what comes and what the design is. But other institutional uses, other types of places of worship, we here are institutional use. So say like a type of library type of thing, schools, daycares. Actually, I had it up here because I thought you might ask. And parks and open spaces is also a possibility, as well as special needs housing.
Thank you. And the reason I asked that is because, as you stated, if that was institutional that you were coming forward with, this wouldn't even be a conversation today. And yet you could put in a library or a daycare and we'd still have the exact same traffic issues that we're considering with institutional. And so I look at what could be there, I look at what's being proposed, and even though I wasn't invited to the site visit, I did my due diligence, as I'm sure other members of council did, because we don't sit here and rubber stamp, and we do make sure that we look at this and consider it fairly, that I think that this is actually a better option than actually the church. And I love the church. I went there. But people were crossing the road everywhere. And it may have only been a few times a week, but we're talking 50 to 200 people, depending if it was a wedding. And that was a dangerous situation. We're now putting something there that's more controlled with actual parking instead of parking over across at Zayres or across at the place on the other side of the street, you name it. I look at this and think this is actually a really good addition to Malden Road. I had the exact same concerns as my council members did, though. This driveway next to the other one does make me a little bit nervous, and I do hope that, you know, maybe there is a great relationship with a neighbor who may consider allowing you to use that, but I also realize we can't force it. But like I said, when I look at this, I think this is an improvement to the area and it's safer, and I have to thank you and your team for going above and beyond with the relocation of the items that were there, because it did mean a lot to the people in the town of LaSalle. Like anyone who attended there, I think can say that they appreciate the care you've taken with the site. And I don't have any issue with what's been presented, because I know you're going to do your due diligence. I know you're going to have that traffic study, and I know administration's going to make the best choice for that area. The other thing is leaving it and doing nothing, and then we have the prime location of the town of LaSalle with nothing sitting on it because we won't let them invest in their property. It doesn't make sense to me. So I will leave that to council. Like I said, you do have option 1 or option 2, and I'll leave you to choose which you put forward as your recommendation this evening.
Excuse me, Your Worship, you did acknowledge Josh just a second ago. Would appreciate if you acknowledged myself.
Sure. Do you have something?
Thank you. Oh, yes, I do.
Sure.
And it's a good one, okay? I talked to Josh ahead of time outside. Mr. Tullio will hate me tonight, but he'll love me tomorrow. I would tell him the suggestion. But to contradict what you were saying, I don't want to be argumentative, but there used to be, Joel Beneteau used to live in the back church. Once a day in the morning, he went to work at Williams, come back, and that's it. that argument as far as being dangerous. It was on a Sunday, on a weekend when there's no traffic at all. And everybody did park at the church and at Zares, but no traffic was going in or out of that driveway. But I do have a solution for them and for the town, which I think they're going to be all happy. I will let the cat out of the bag in a second, but I do take offense to that you're going from a site right now that's passive to an aggressive, and it's case law under the Ontario Land Tribunal. The solution to this property, I did talk to Mr. Rashid Farhat. I was going to tell that to Josh after, because I've been in this town for a long time, and I'm a kind of adjudicator than making war. So I called up Mr. Farhat, and I said, Rashid, were you contacted by Mr. Tullio? Yes, I was, but he wanted to buy some property. And I said, no. I would have said the same thing. Why would I want to sell a piece of property? So I said, did the town or anybody contact you or anybody for a joint access? Because if he gets a joint access on Malden Road, that's worth $1 million to this development, because they'll go in if you bring up the drawing.
Well,
They'll go in
to
off
be
the
fair,
ball.
Mr. Tedesco, I appreciate that, but the town can't.
No, I understand that, but I already took care of that, so we're going to discuss it after, but I
Okay.
just took offense that when I hear some stuff that it's not true, then I'm sorry, but I have to speak up. That location there was a passive location, and it was the priests, they haven't been living there for 2 years, so, and even before that, Father Leo, he never went out.
We will agree to disagree on this one. As a resident of LaSalle my entire life who went to school there, I can tell you I've seen that intersection pretty busy. Maybe it's not cars all the time, but it was pedestrians. And it wasn't just one day a week. They had mass on Saturday. They have weddings. They had Sunday school. They had things in the basement. There's things going there all the time. And I appreciate that and what you're saying. But in my opinion, having parking on site and people not jetting out everywhere is a safety concern. And I think you are addressing that. And I'm sorry if I offended you, but I think you also offended some members of council with your statements. But we'll move on to Councilor Reno. Did you want something?
I just wanted to clarify, my question would be for Mr. Tedesco. In your presentation, you talked about the rat runs and how they would affect your properties, and I totally appreciate that. But what I'm wondering, are those really issues that are for this project, or are they issues for the town of LaSalle if the project is approved? I mean, I don't see how this is relevant to the project itself and what's been presented, but I could understand how it could be presented to the town later on. I just wanted some clarification on what your true objection is, because when I'm reading the presentation is saying, you know, if there are no objections, we move on. You're presenting an objection. I just don't know if it's really towards the town or towards what's happening in the project, if that's all right.
Great question. Very good question. And again, we call it rat run down here. The Ontario Land Tribunal calls it bear with me, cut through traffic. I cut the grass. I maintain my own buildings. Very proud. Always have, always will. So in cutting the grass and spraying weeds and whatever, the traffic has increased the last couple years since they've done a traffic study. They did do a traffic study there. They put the rubber things across the road, which counts the cars. Because people on Normandy were complaining that it was a rat run, cut through, whatever you want to call it. And that's 2 years ago. And steadily it has increased. And with this here, adding to the problem that 400 feet from Malden Road to my property, it's just going to increase that much more. And people going to take the path of least resistance. And that's exactly what they're doing. So is it affecting the property? Yes. I have a solution to get rid of the one driveway, because that one driveway shouldn't be there, but they're entitled to it because you can't you cannot landlock a property. I understand that. There's a problem right now the town of LaSalle has down on Malden Road, that a piece of property is landlocked. And I'm involved with that one and trying to facilitate also with that one there. But the bottom line to your question is this affecting? Yes, it is, because it's increasing that dangerous 400 feet of road, which goes from busy to operational deficit. That's from the Land Tribunal. That's to answer your question, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move option 2.
So option 2, if all issues are resolved at the public planning meeting, the requisite zoning bylaw amendment will be brought forward for council's consideration at a subsequent council meeting.
Considering all the comments we made.
Yes. And do I have support for that? Councilor Richo Spagnolo? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much for attending and your comments. Have a good night.